Started. So thanks again, Wendy. So just to kind of give you a little bit of history, Wendy has been in the industry since I believe 2001, prior to the 2008 market crash. She specializes on residential resale properties, multifamilies, luxury, and she also has a phenomenal business model that she implements. She's climbed the ladder, through her career, and from coaching to consulting to even a team leader for multiple offices. So I'm so honored to have Wendy Soto in the house. So thank you so much. So
Yeah.
Wendy, tell me, let's get started. Let's start from the very beginning. Tell us how and why you got into real estate.
Well, when I was really young, my dad actually had a girlfriend that was a realtor, and I thought, wow, she has an amazing life. So I remember thinking that. And I think that probably stuck in the back of my head, but then it didn't really go anywhere. I got married really young and had kids really young. But after we bought our second home, I had to help the listing agent, who was horrible, to sell our house because I was desperate to sell it. We'd outgrown it, and we were trying to move into a house that was being built for us. And I had to do anything I could to get that house sold. And so when it was all done, her father, who was a broker in the town that we lived in, came and said that he liked me and that he thought I had what it took to be a realtor, and wanted to know if he helped me get my license, if I would come and work for him. And it was weird. It was like, I always knew that was going to happen or something. I was like, yeah, that's great. Let's do this. And so this is my 21st year, and I got transactions right away, which was crazy and exciting, but it's the best career I could have ever hoped for. I've done all of the things you said, and I did residential resale for 2 years, and then hopped into new homes for 5 years, and then went back into residential resale. So I've had that new homes aspect and the team leader aspect, and now plus running the team too. So I've been like kind of all over the map, which is good. Just because it's just given me a lot of experience. That's the main reason why. So
I love it. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. And what is your number one philosophy about your clients? Because all of us have a different perspective, but I know that you are core and committed to each and every of your client. I mean, I see it, with the emails going back and forth, how diligent you are and how professional you are. But tell us a little bit more on that avenue and how you approach your clients.
Well, no matter whether it's a buyer or a seller, I just feel, incredibly honored that people trust me enough to want to, work with me and have me represent them. So my main thing is just that they come first, and that it's, living by the golden rule and treating others as you would like to be treated. So I always think to myself, how would I feel in this situation if this was me, and what would be important to me, or how would I want things to be? And even though nobody's just like me, I think that trying to always think about what's the right thing to do, no matter what, when you're just starting with a client, or even when you're in a transaction, all the way, even after you close escrow, because people do call you because there may be problems after the fact. I always have that in my head.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And what is your main focus now after 20 plus years in this industry?
My main focus right now is trying to, represent as many sellers as I can. I do have buyer's agents. I have a couple of buyer's agents right now, and I'll be having a third coming on, we hope, within the next 6 weeks to 2 months. So I think that that's probably it. And then just developing my brand. Because I think, for so long, it was just trying to focus on transactions and trying to find the next client. And I mean, in the beginning, it's hard because you're trying to build a foundation, you're trying to build something. And I know there are some like super rock star people that have gone faster than I have. But even though it's been a gradual progression, it's like slow and steady wins the race. I mean, that's really what describes my business. It's like been slow and steady and just, gradually climbing higher and higher each year. And that still works too. You don't have to do it in 2 or 3 years. So
I love it. Cool. Now take us, I want to go in two phases here. I want to go back to 2008 when the market crashed. And then I also want to go back to 2020 when the pandemic hit and just kind of see your perspective, because a lot of us on this call probably did not experience that. But ultimately, the reason I want to talk about this, Wendy, is because you got to adapt, right, to the market. Whatever the market goes, you adapt to it, you change. Because if you don't, then you're going to be out of this industry faster than you think. So take us back to 2008 with the real estate market meltdown. That impacted your business, or what did you do to pivot and change your perspective in that time?
Well, this is going to be like really personal, and I'm happy to share it. But I was living in the Central Valley of California when the downturn happened, and where I lived, it hit about 18 months sooner than it hit Los Angeles, because there wasn't enough infrastructure. There's no jobs out where we lived to sustain the prices that had gone up so astronomically. So ours just stopped, like completely, like just halted. And I was running a subdivision in the town that we lived in. And so I knew that I was in trouble, because we went from, probably like 50 groups of visitors a week to about 2. And it was like overnight. And so I knew something drastic had happened. And my boss goes, well, it's just the time of year, it's seasonal, because it was like around November, December type of situation. And this is 2006. And I said, no, it's not seasonal. This is like a thing. Something's going on, because everything's just stopped. And it can't just be me. It's like, it's happening everywhere. So eventually I realized that, things were turned into ghost towns. All of the big subdivisions were just stopped. So I said, got to go back to residential resale. And this was during a time when my very long marriage has ended, and I am now on my own, and the market has changed. And I knew that this was the only career I wanted to do. So if I would have stayed where I was, I probably couldn't have survived in the business. I would have had to do something different. But I moved to Los Angeles, and all of the agents here were really complaining. They were like, oh, everything's just stopped. It's so terrible. But I did 10 deals my first year here. And I mean, I know that's not like outstanding or anything, but I didn't know LA. I didn't know the area. I'd never sold a condo in my life. So I had to learn a lot, and I had to learn really fast. And I still was doing it. And the fact that I was still transacting, gave me hope that it was going to be okay. But I just never stopped working. When you're trying to build a business, if you're serious about it, this is not a part-time endeavor. I'm kind of like a 24/7 realtor. If somebody tries to talk to me at 10 or 11 o'clock at night, I'm going to answer them if I'm awake. And a lot of people are like, no, don't do that. You have to set boundaries, and you have to have a life. I know a lot of people that started businesses, and this is not any different than any other business that you would start. My grandfather was one of those people. He was a master craftsman. He owned a custom cabinet company that my uncles ended up turning into a multi-million-dollar corporation. And my grandfather used to get up really early in the morning, go to his shop, work all day building whatever he was making. And then he would come home, have dinner. He had his Formica samples. It was a big keychain of Formica samples. And he would get in his truck and he would go on calls for like the next 2 to 3 hours. He worked really long hours to try to get his business off the ground. And of course, they became very well known and very successful. But if he would have only just put, oh, well, I'm just going to do 8 hours, or I'm only going to do 6 hours, or I don't really feel like going on these calls, or then I don't know what would have happened to his business. And so I try to explain to anybody I'm talking to, especially being a team leader and recruiting 96 people in a year, and seeing about 5 of those people last, that's really scary. That you have to put your heart and soul into this. You have to take it super seriously, and you have to look for every opportunity that you could have in front of you to find a transaction when you're just starting out. And it's a lot of different ways that we do that. So no matter whatever the market is doing, which is what your question was, is just, it doesn't matter. Because especially out here, there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people that need houses. There's a lot of people that are selling houses. There's a lot of people that are downsizing. There's a lot of people that are going into care facilities. There's a lot of people that are leaving the state. there's a lot of transactions to be had. And it's our job to figure out where those are and how we can assist people, how we can be of service to someone.
100%. Yep, absolutely. So now let's transition 2020. How did that look for you?
I got scared just like everybody else because I was going to the grocery store, nothing on the shelves, everybody's freaking out. And I'm like, uh-oh. But there were people and they wanted to buy houses still. And so I knew what the precautions were, right? Whether you had to wear shoe covers and you wore your mask and you stayed 6 feet apart and you were maybe wearing gloves or using your sanitizer and not letting your clients touch doors and stuff like that. We're doing our peds. Oh, I hated those peds, but we were doing those every time we did showings. And that was the only thing that changed. My business didn't slow down in 2020. And in 2021, that was my biggest year ever, was last year. So I think this is a weird analogy, but I think it's appropriate. Living in Los Angeles, I've seen a lot of celebrities. Like, they seem to be all over the place. And sometimes it just totally freaks you out. Like, holy cow, it's so-and-so and whatever. And what people that have lived here all their lives say to me, they're like, calm down, they're just people. And now it's the same with real estate. It's like, yes, there's COVID, but it's like, calm down. Yeah, we're having a pandemic, but people still need to buy and sell and people still need to move. And so even though there's this thing going on and it's a big deal, it's a really big deal, you have to ignore that and just say, yeah, but I still have a job to do. And you can't just stop and go, well, oh, I got this pandemic, because we can't stop. We have to keep moving.
100%. That's right. In this industry, it's the positive vibe, right? But more so is the momentum each and every year. What is your commitment to it? Because as you said, this is not a 9 to 5. This is not a Monday to Friday. This is what your clients' expectations of you. Are you going to be able to facilitate, navigate that and do what's best for your clients? Then you're going to see big results, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why, in the 20 plus years in this industry, you've seen, progression and momentum in your business, and you just keep adapting to that. And this is what the results show. I mean, it's not easy, right? At the end of the day, because I know we've been to battle on several transactions, and you got to take the good, the bad, and the ugly from it and just continue pressing forward. Mm-hmm. Tell us when you decided to start the team. That's I love the transition, through all the roles. But when did you think that was the right time and moment to start building a team?
Well, for the longest time, I thought, well, for one thing, do I have enough lead gen just for myself? Because you have to be a rainmaker if you have a team. But also, I was just like, oh, I just do it myself. I'll just do it myself. And sometimes that's, number one, that's not really realistic, but also if you want to have growth and you want to extend your reach, especially like if it's geographically going to extend your reach to, like in my case, Orange County, or in different parts of LA that maybe I might not travel to, or further beach cities, like, let's say Manhattan Beach. I'll go to Manhattan Beach. I'm not going to turn it down. But I mean, it's not where I'd like to focus. So I think that having the team, I thought, I could have that broader reach. And after, being a team leader and running an office, and then, coaching with my top agents and seeing them with a lot of them with their teams and stuff. And I'm like, well, I can do this because I already know what to do. So I decided that I wanted to grow the business in that direction. And I'm glad that I have, because it's been challenging, but it's also been rewarding. And, to develop other people is very nice too, to see that happen and be able to help people, because there's a lot of things, like I look back and I'm like, oh, I wish somebody would have been there for me for that. And I didn't have that. And so be able to be that for other people is very nice.
Yeah. Love that. How's 2022? I know it's still in the beginning of the year, but how's that looking for you?
I mean, there's transactions happening, there's listings happening for my team. So I know that the market's still going. I think we're seeing hiccups, I think we're seeing changes, and I'm telling my people, you need to not freak out, but you need to be ready to adjust yourself, because that's basically what's happening, is that I'm watching like a lot of down arrows. I don't know if you guys are looking at that every day, but there's a lot of down arrows. There's a lot of properties that have closed at asking. There's a lot more days on the market. And this is already, if you look back the last quarter, you see it. It's like right there. And I know that it's going to continue to go like that, because interest rates are going up and there are things that are happening. So what's going to happen is, I'm not psychic, but I've already been through this once, so I already know what's going to happen. Sellers, I think this year are going to be like, oh crap, we need to not miss the bus. Our property's at an all-time high. We got to hurry up and get on the market. And I think we're going to see inventory come on. I think we're going to see more inventory come on. And as we do, then the buyer demand is going to even out, because everybody's not going to be trying to get one house because that's all that's there. And so these sellers that have been getting these crazy prices and not having to do anything and have their closing costs covered, or whatever strategy was used just to get the client in the door, it's gonna diminish, because they're not going to be that desperate. And so it's either going to shift to a balanced market, or it's going to tip all the way to a buyer's market. And I don't know how long it's going to take, but I think we may see an intermediate thing happen where it shifts down to from the seller's market into the balanced market, and then maybe down into the buyer's market. And sellers are not prepared for that. And I think they're already unrealistic, because it's been so good for so long, that now it's going to be our job to educate them that it's not going to be possible. And there are going to be sellers that sit on the market for months because they don't want to listen. And they're going to get even less for their property because they didn't want to listen to the fact that, the changes have already occurred.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, exactly. I think what you said is crucial and very important. It is our job. It is our job. Yeah. Data is very important, right? Are you really focused on the market? Are you seeing the trends? The multiple listing service is your friend. If you're not on it on a regular basis, looking at trends, markets, are they fluctuating? Every area, every city, every zip code has trends. And this is very important, crucial to all of your success, because if the seller's not being realistic, as Wendy stated, then you're either not going to get the listing because they're not going to see the value, or you're going to get an unrealistic seller that you're going to list, but the property is going to sit on the market for months and months, and it's eventually going to expire. So it's our responsibility is to anchor that conversation with the seller and be quite frank with them and realistic. Numbers do not lie, trends do not lie. And ultimately, it is our responsibility to have those, sometimes very difficult conversations, because again, as Wendy stated, the sellers have been on top for many, many months, and now maybe a year and a half since all this started, but it may ultimately shift, right? Where there's a stability now, where it's now a buyer and a seller. And if interest rate continues going up, what happens? Then it tends to become a buyer's market. So good.
Yeah, I want to say one more thing. I just had a seller that I got a listing signed, and she was between several agents, and then she lowered it to 2 agents. She's moving to Laguna Woods, which I don't want to drive to Laguna Woods. It's not close. And she's like, but this other agent knows a lot about Laguna Woods. And I said, well, great. I go, why don't I just list this property, and then she can do your Laguna Woods purchase. Oh, that's a great compromise. So that's what we did. So we had a Zoom, and the other agent was on the call. We were talking about timelines and kind of the plan, right? And so I told her, because I wasn't happy with our list price, but I was like, okay, well, I could try for a little bit, but I don't really think it's realistic, because I know what that building's doing. So I said, hey, I just want to let you know that I'm not really comfortable with your list price. I'm willing to do it, but I'm not willing to do it long term, because I know that's just going to sit there, and I will know you want to move. And she said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, this property's coming on at X, we're coming on at this. And even though yours is highly upgraded and has an HVAC system, which the other property doesn't have, it has value, and I'm not saying that it doesn't, and your property is superior and it's going to be worth more for sure. But I do think that you're being unrealistic. I don't think we're going to get what you're asking. And she said, well, what would be a more comfortable number for you? Now we're not on the market yet. So, we haven't even taken photos yet. And I said, well, I definitely think we should go down 20,000. I mean, without a doubt, I think we should go down 20,000 because I don't want it to just get stale. It's just going to sit there. And on the Zoom, even after having the signed listing contract and not being on the market, she agreed with me and we reduced the price. And I thought that was like amazing. I was like so happy because, I didn't want her to be super disappointed because I'm going to do everything I can to get the property sold. I don't give up. I really don't. I'm after it until it's done. But I just knew that was going to be a bad decision at that price.
Yeah. That's awesome. The power of Zoom, right? You gotta love it.
Yes.
Good deal. Okay, well, I'm going to open it up to anyone have any questions for Wendy before we close it out. Any questions specific that you'd like to share with the group? And Wendy?
Yes, I do. Leroy Brown.
Leroy.
Wendy, great information. Thank you so much.
Yes.
One of the questions I have for the entire panel is, right now in the current market, we're seeing a lot of listing agents offering 2% compensation.
Yeah.
Sellers aren't stupid. When this market shifts, do you think sellers will all of a sudden demand a 4% commission? And this is like really near and dear to me because I think we're eating ourselves from the inside out. We're going to end up taking a pay decrease as opposed to at least stand with the 5% or the 6%. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I have some thoughts on it, and it's probably not going to be popular, so I'm going to apologize to you in advance. The things that I say, a lot of people may not agree with, other producers, whatever, but I'm going to say this. I'm in an escrow right now with a family in South Central Los Angeles in a home that this was all that they could afford. And the seller went through some weird company where they're like not even in the state of California. And the compensation was 1%. And this is the only house my clients can afford. And our job, we have a fiduciary responsibility, and our job is to help someone get into a house. So I'm going to make next to nothing on this transaction. But number one, it's a transaction, so I need to be grateful. Number two, this client has a sphere of influence, like Simon was talking about when I first got on the call, and Flip, I believe, was talking about. So I can't look at it like, well, I'm only going to make 1% or whatever. I have to look at it like I'm helping a family. I know they're going to be grateful in the end. And I think that there's going to be other transactions that are going to follow. There's all kinds of different commission structures that I see out there. I see 1%, I see 1.5%, I see 2%. 2% seems to be the norm a lot of times, especially in lower price point. So I say we have to just take the good with the bad and remember that we are here to help people, and also that we're here to stay in business. And so we might have to take lower commissions during this shifting period, just because we want to continue to transact, but we also want to continue to help people. I'm not suggesting that we put our, all of our listings on the market at a lower commission rate or anything like that. And I mean, I think, we still go after the 2% because we are business people. We are in business for ourselves. We want to make a living. But we still have a job to do. I think we should be willing to do what other people are not willing to do, because that's what's going to keep us in business. And I think that's how it's always been. The more you're willing to do things that other people are not willing to do, and that could be, selling a house at 1% or whatever, you're going to have transactions and you're going to grow. Your business is going to grow. Every time you have a client, you close them and it's a positive experience, your database just grew. And your opportunity for more transactions down the line, no matter who it's with that they might know, just increased a lot. So, and the more people we know, the more deals we're going to do.
100%. Love it, Wendy. Filip, question, sir.
Oh, yes. I just wanted to add to what Wendy was saying. And I'm with you, Leroy, where we hold the line as best we can and then some. There was something Gary Keller had said I want to say he said it last year. He said, look, the commissions across the nation are likely over time going to decrease, just simply because of people's accessibility, the companies out there. But he said because of technology and the things we can leverage, even though if it's a declining scale, and even if the market changes and it ups again, then we just make more. But his whole thing was just have more clients because of the ability to leverage, the ability to take advantage of technology, grow in a group around us and stuff like that. We could actually make more. And I saw it last year. Our commissions actually went up, but at the same time, we also saw more units and more leads and more pre-approved buyers and so forth.
Yes.
And I do agree with you, Leroy. I think it's going to flip. My coach is preparing me to like, hey, Filip, you need to focus on 7% listings at some point, because you're going to pay 4% to a buyer's agent to sell a house, and she's from that era of the 70s and 80s and 90s where, you almost gave 80-90% of the commission to the buyer's agent, and you took a referral fee almost in selling homes. So, I do have people in my ear who are coaching me on that aspect. But if we do continue in this type of market, it will be about unit count and having multiple units, as opposed to when you're right, when the market shifts, a totally different story.
But yeah, I think that you're absolutely right. And you brought that up, and it reminded me when I did my first transaction, it was at Aqua Towers in Long Beach. That was my very first, and it was an REO. And it was the beginning of 2009, because I got here at the end of 2008. And there was a $3,500 bonus incentive because it was an REO attached to this $260,000 condo. And I got a check for $10,000. And I was like, this is awesome. Oh my gosh, it's 260 and I got like 10 grand and this is amazing, because they were incentivizing people. And there were a lot of bonuses attached to REO listings, and there was a ton of REO listings at that time. So, I mean, I 100% agree with you, Philip. We're going to see shifts in the way that we get paid, but the job that we do is not going to change. So we just have to adjust to what these things are going to look like in the future. And it always changes. It's going to change now and it's going to change again later. There's going to be it's constant movement. It's not boring to be in real estate.
If I could drop one more in there, somebody put here, if they got a buyer broker agreement, that is so important, because you can address commission at the buyer consult with the BRE, because it does say there our compensation is based on what's found on the MLS. And you can actually write in what that compensation on average could be or what you would expect. And you can even let them know. And I do let the client know. So this is the cool shift, right? I let them know that typically this is what our brokerage will accept as a commission. I blame the higher power. I blame Stephanie. I blame many, right? And I say, look, this is what we go after, right? This is what our brokerage expects. However, and because this is a true thing now, they actually see the commissions on some of the advertisements on Zillow, Redfin, if they choose to publish it, right?
Yeah.
So depending on what app they're using, they'll see the commissions that were potentially being paid, right? So when they see, and I let them know, like, hey, just so you know, this one is at a 1.5%, right? I need to talk to my team, my office, that hey, if we write an offer on this, they'll ask me to ask you to pay us that difference. So now it's like, oh shoot, 1%, man, that's $6,000 or whatever the number is, right? And then it becomes, but let me talk to them. Let's waive it. Let's get it to where, hey, we can still do this. So they know that we're sacrificing, because truth is, I mean, back when you could search it, you can't do it now because of the law change of the lawsuit, but you could search commissions before. Now you can't, right? So now, I mean, I agree with you, Wendy, but when you have that tough conversation early on, you can kind of flip it to where you're still, because you are being a hero, right? But we just want to let them know, like, hey, we are making the sacrifice to make sure that you get to where you want to be. And it kind of makes that referral review process a little bit stronger, if that makes sense, right? I mean, it's still business, but because we know we're sacrificing, but they don't know that. They're just like, oh,
correct. Yes.
You're just driving around or sending your assistant to get me into houses, blah, 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 blah. But that at least allows us to have a deeper conversation with our clients beyond just, hey, we're just not being paid enough. I'm not going to show you the house, or I am going to show you the house, but I'm going to feel bad about this whole transaction, right? Not that that's the case, but I'm just saying that's in the,
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
100%. And honestly, I think that being upfront and explaining to them, sometimes I say all kinds of things, I could kind of fly by the seat of my pants, but I'll tell people, I'm like, well, this one's at 1%. And, we're having a heck of a time finding you a place, but you know what? There's not going to be that much competition because this is such a deterrent. Because of what we just talked about, this is such a deterrent, and a lot of people are probably not even looking at this property, not only for where it's listed, where it is, but also because of the commission that they're offering. And this is a good opportunity for you to slide right into this. And at the end of the day, that's the goal. So, I let them know this, yes, because they do have family and friends. They do have people they know, and then they're gonna be like, oh, well, look what Wendy was willing to do for us. And I think that that's important because we want to grow and we want to help people. So sometimes you have to take it for the team, even if you don't want to, and just still be grateful that you have that transaction. That's really how I feel about that.
100%. And I just want to touch on what Filip said, because I always tell the agents here in the office, hey, throw me under the bus.
Yeah, you
Throw
can.
the company under the bus.
It's in the contract. Listing agreement says
Yeah,
it's
I
under
always say
manager
that, and
approval.
it's funny how Filip says that. Just blame someone else. Be the
Yeah.
good cop, bad cop, right? And I always say, you know what? When it comes to negotiations and your commissions, just throw the team leader, throw the company under the bus, and then we'll deal with it. We'll have a conversation and explain, and it be that pillar and leverage for you to get you your commission.
Yeah.
But I like what you said, Wendy, as well. Take the good from the bad from it, right? If they're promoting a 2% commission, I look at it from a bigger perspective. I see it from a win, because in the eye of the buyer, I'm doing them justice, not me. I'm not being selfish, right? Yes, we're so accustomed, right, to the 2.5% and 3%. And yeah, I remember, bonuses and 5% commissions to the cooperating brokerage. That was super exciting in those times. But let's be reality. Let's be frank and let's be real, right? Nowadays, you just got to take the good from the bad, and ultimately look at it from a big picture. Is they're going to refer you more business. I always see that happening. When you give, you get immense of it and more. That's how I see it. So awesome stuff. Filip, thank you again. One last question, I think, and we should be wrapping up. So Wendy, what is your measure of a successful realtor?
Oh boy. I think there's a lot of different measurements for that. I mean, some people just look at the volume that they did. Some people look at the transaction they did. Did they hit their goals? For me, real estate is relationships. And so for me, being successful is transacting. I mean, we have to transact or we're not in business, but also it's about building relationships. And I think that the more relationships we build, the more we stay in touch with our past clients, the more that we talk to people that we know and make sure they're aware that this is what we do for a living, the more we're building our business, and also we are successful. Because when people come to me and they say, well, we live kind of far away. One of my first clients lives out in Laguna Hills, and they're going to be making a move pretty soon. We're going to be listing their property, and they're going to be buying something, live in a townhouse, and they're outgrowing it. They want to buy a house. And she just said, because her husband says, well, why don't we use somebody closer to home? And she says, but Wendy's like family. She's like family. And I hear my clients say that a lot, that Wendy treated us like we were her family. To me, that's being a successful agent, because you're doing your job. You're making their needs so important, and you're doing whatever you can for them, that you're always with them and they stay with you.
Right.
And that's how you build a business. That's how you get what you want while helping others get what they want.
Absolutely. Well said. All right. Well, Wendy, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. There was a lot of content. I hope all of you got value from it. And I appreciate you all. Have a phenomenal day and a wonderful weekend. And we'll see you on our next Producer Mindset. Thanks again, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you
great
guys.
day.
That was awesome.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Filip.
Thank you.